Right, good evening. This is going to be a very quick tutorial on how to use this tool, what it is, what it does. Basically, this is a portfolio optimization tool that I built just so that we have a tool to model offshore funds. And what I've done is I've just selected a basket of offshore multi-asset funds and a couple of bond funds. Basically on the mandate that we want to try and keep, you know, the risk or standard deviation, this little guy over here, standard deviation, we want to keep that as low as possible. Also, obviously trying to allow for good returns over the long term. So you'll see the tool is quite interesting. So basically the stuff you can edit is you can select from these drop-down lists over here, okay. You can change the number of end periods or number of periods that you want to basically, let's give you an idea. So if I go over 30 and I push enter and then I go F9, basically what it's going to do is going to compute, and you'll see this graph has sort of been squashed here. You'll just have to obviously go and change the axis data here, format chart area, go up here to, where is it, size, I think, yeah, size, height, no, properties, geez, it's the vertical axis, okay. Vertical axis, okay, and you basically just make the maximum sort of in line with that. So you could say 15. So the maximum 0.15 or 15%. You tab away and you'll see, boom, Bob's your uncle. There you go. Chart's already looking a hell of a lot better. And you'll see these little period separators in here. This is new. You won't have this on your version, but basically what it's saying is every 30 days we reset and we get a new return based off of, you know, the periods. So that's basically how this thing works. Average return, that's your average return for the last however many 30 days, as long as the sample is, and the sample goes from, what's this, the sample goes from like, was it 2013? Okay, all the way to like December. Yeah. Okay, so it's about 4 years odd of data. You also see it measures obviously the monthly standard deviation or the 30-day standard deviation for these funds. So and obviously the Sharpe ratio for the funds for these periods. So interesting. Let's take it back to 365. Okay, F9 to compute. Okay, and you'll see, well, this thing's now thrown out of whack. I will somehow figure out how to get this thing working again. Okay, well, let's be a little bit bigger than that. 40, fine. Okay, so yeah, basically now what we do is we use the we can use the solver function to create portfolio optimization. So how do I do that? Well, you would go into the data tab. Okay. You would go into the data tab. It should be there. I think it's this little thing here. Solver, yeah, it'll be under the data tab if you have it. If you don't have it, you're going to have to install it via your add-ons on Excel. You must just Google it, how to add solver, the solver function to your Excel. So you open it, opens this little box over here, and what you can do is you just tell, you basically just tell the worksheet what to work out. So we're just going to take this first portfolio over here. Basically what we're saying is we're saying I want to maximize return but keeping my standard deviation at 4%. So I'm going to say max, and what we want to do is we want to basically max out the return values, so the average return, okay, by changing these values, we then are, I'm just going to delete that, delete that, okay. We then are going to add some constraints. We're going to say this guy over here has to equal 1 or 100%, okay. Then we're going to add another constraint. So we're going to say, okay, we want the standard deviation over here to be less than or equal to 4%. Okay, we say okay. And now what we do is we basically hit solve, and it's going to run a whole bunch of equations in the back end to basically give me the optimal portfolio weight. And you'll see it happen very quickly because this has already been solved for you. But that's basically how you would use that tool. And you can do it for a number of things. You can say, well, give me the lowest standard deviation at a return of 8, and it will give you this portfolio. Or you can say, give me the largest Sharpe ratio available, and it would give you this portfolio over here. And then what I've done here is I basically made my chosen portfolio. My chosen portfolio, quite simply, is a portfolio whereby I look to just use the funds that the tool actually likes. Okay, so I've added a bit of PineBridge here because it tends to like it for the return and the Sharpe ratio. I've added a bit of this Investec strategic manage because it seems to be quite popular. Okay, I've also added this British Pound Flexible Bond Fund, as well as the JP Morgan Global Balanced, and 10% of this real estate securities fund. Okay, I think that's the old Saracen fund. But anyway, so basically then this thing sort of tells me, okay, cool. So based on these portfolio mixes, your average return is going to be on an annual basis around 4.6%, and your standard deviation is going to be at about 3. And that's great. And we're looking at this green line over here. That's great because you can see the fund doesn't really dip into the negative, and on historic track record, it's given sort of between 0 and 5, 0 and 10%, on an annual basis, except it sort of hit a wobble in, I think this was 2016, early 2015, 2016, sort of hit a bit of a wobble. So yeah, that's basically what this tool does. Also basically works on correlation. So even if you're not sure up here, you can sort of look over here at the correlation. You can say, well, if it's red, then there is a good inverse correlation or decorrelation between the PineBridge fund, which I've selected, and obviously these bond funds. So it actually makes sense to put some of these bond funds in here. Cool. Hopefully that's not too difficult for you. And then I've basically done it on a fund by fund basis just to show you how these funds basically perform. And you guys sort of understand rolling returns is basically, if I sort of start over here, that basically says, last year in 2012, if I invested on the 25th of November, basically I would have earned 17.8% return. And then in the same fund, the following year, so the 2013 year would have yielded me around 13.16. That's sort of why I got these markers in here, because it's quite nice to check. Following year would have maybe yielded a little bit less, under 0. Yeah, it's just a little bit difficult to hunt for that. Following year would have been a little bit better, and now this last year would have been pretty sweet at 17.49%. So that's great. And then you can also, and that's on this specific Investec Global Strategic managed fund. If you want to sort of look at portfolio level, you can obviously highlight and sort of track, like I've just tracked there on the portfolio. And then if you want to run into a situation where you want to see how we normally see, so cumulatively, you can also see. So basically, I've just rebased everything to 100 and just shown how the funds have sort of performed on top of one another. So guys, yeah, very quick and easy, simple look at how this tool works. It is still work in progress. I'm still looking to do returns, 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, average rolling returns, annualized rolling returns, beg your pardon, and yeah, eventually fill this white space with something meaningful as well. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. And yeah, if you have any questions, just shout. Lekker. Ciao.